2015 season, I think I was capable of winning. But then it was like, all right, well, what if I wasn't staying up until 3 a.m.? What if I wasn't eating ice cream every night, pizza? What if I was in a better mental state? You know, all these different things. And so I kind of went the extreme other direction of just, I said no to everything. I was the most selfish person, and not in terms of like take, but I wasn't giving energy or effort out to anywhere that wasn't absolutely mandatory to help my performance. And so after that season, I won. I broke the victory, and I just went, okay, like I'm going to double down on that. And I just kept, just any one little tiny percent that I could grab. Something even as simple as I do sauna sessions 3-4 times a week. Well, the sauna at the gym was 15 minutes away from my house. So that's a barrier of entry of 15 minutes. And I got to change and shower, all this stuff. Well, I went, no, I'm going to take out that barrier of entry, put a sauna in my backyard, put an ice bath in my backyard so that I have no excuse. I only have 30 minutes. I don't have a full hour. Can't do it. Sleep. I'm like a toddler with my bedtime routine. TV off at 10. The room's completely blacked out. I have a cooling mat on the bed. I have air conditioning on. I have my Dawn simulator to wake me up. I drink my sleepy time tea. It is, I don't know how practical it is for everyone, but I'm looking for all of those little tiny gains throughout the way. And then even by the end, before the 17 games, I was out riding my motorcycle, got sideswiped pretty badly, like wrecked the motorcycle, wrecked the car, but my ankle was just ballooned up, and I went, okay, like, that's an unnecessary risk that I can't take anymore. And so basically, a month before the games, I wrapped myself in bubble wrap. Like, no motorcycle, I'm not doing any more trail runs. We saw what happened this year, like, one of the competitors went on a trail run the week prior to the games and twisted her ankle. Well, that's an unnecessary injury to go in. It's easily preventable. I kind of mentioned, like, I don't even use a steak knife. I don't use sharp knives for a couple of weeks because if you cut your thumb, you hook grip everything. And now you're going to get blood. It's going to make your grip slippery. You're not going to be able to grip things as well. So it may sound silly, to the everyday person, but like, for me, 90% of my earning potential for the year, my life resume is based off that one weekend. And we've seen it before where, the whole games comes down to one workout and there's 2 points separating first and second place. Well, if you're going in with a big slice on your hand, you're giving an advantage to your competitor. So anything that was kind of easy to change up like that, a lot of it was possible because I have a support team around me, like O'Keefe, like Sammy, that, they kind of see my dedication to it, so they're willing to help out and pick up the slack where need be.
That's awesome perspective. And if there's time for a follow-up question, you touched on something that I'm curious about. So my staff here has gotten certified through the Adaptive Training Academy for inclusion and, wounded warriors and stuff like that. You touched on the ice bath in the backyard. So we've recently started moving towards the Wim Hof program, contrast treatment, the breathing, and ice baths. How did you utilize ice baths during your workup for the games?
Yeah, I've heard great things about Wim Hof. I've never practiced it. It was something that I picked up back when I lived at the Olympic Training Center. They had a hot tub, and then it looked like a second hot tub, but it was just a cold tub right next to it. We would do contrast, and it was something that when I was doing it on a regular basis, I didn't know any other form of recovery that made me feel better. So I just kept doing it, and I found when I did just ice bath, my muscles the next day will still feel a little bit tight because, they just finished this hard contraction for 5-10 minutes. So when I'm going into a rest day, I'll end on cold tub. Because, the next day I don't mind if I'm a little tight, it takes a little longer to get warmed up. But when I'm training, I just do contrast back and forth. So I have it's just a deep freeze that I sealed up, put a thermostat in, and then I have a 2-man barrel sauna right next to it. So I'll keep the barrel sauna up around 200 degrees. I'll do 30 minutes with the intervals in it, and then like 3 to 5 minute intervals in the cold tub, and just back and forth. And that's one thing I've done no research on. I almost want this like willingness ignorance of, I think I feel amazing when I do it, and I don't want anyone telling me otherwise. So during the season, I'd say the sauna and ice bath is like my most utilized tool.
And daily?
I would say every other day. Yeah, every other day probably.
Thanks again, Matt. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You guys. Matt, there's a number of questions that have come in pertaining to the opening season that's going to start, and who you think the favorite is that now you've decided to exit.
Ooh, who do I think the favorite is for the open?
Yeah. So let me clarify that for the open, and then why don't you go on to the games after that? But first for the open. Yeah.
Okay, so for the open. Probably Noah Olson. I think Noah or BKG. BKG usually smacks him out of the park in the open. He has a crazy, metabolic base. I think BK is probably one of the fittest early on in the season. I think Noah has a chance because he loves to, like, repeat workouts. He can take one workout, wait a day, and then I think he's one of the rare ones that will, like, get a big PR on a second attempt. So I'd say my money would be on Noah. I think he'd be more willing to repeat workouts. And I think because there's prize money as well this year in the Open. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going for that. When it comes to the season, so my money would have been on Vellner, but O'Keefe, has he announced anything?
See, people do know, yeah.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. That's
okay, yeah, so Vellner's expecting a baby in June. So I think that's going to be a bit of a distraction for him. I think the potential is always there, though. But I think having a newborn right before the games is a big old disadvantage. Then we got Noah. I don't know. I don't think he's willing to work on his weaknesses. His snatch technique has been awful for years and years on end, and there's no change in sight. I would love to see BKG. I think he has the best movement, best work ethic, best engine. He's the most well-rounded. I just don't know what's happened the last year or two. And then I think the obvious pick is Justin Medeiros. I have high hopes for him in his career. I just don't know if the strength foundation is quite there yet. The strength is there in stuff like the squats, but for whatever reason, I think his upper body just isn't quite developed enough. Medeiros will 100% win the games multiple times. There's no doubt in my mind he is the best talent to come into the space in a long time. I just don't know if it's there yet. I think the experience of some of the other guys may edge out Justin for one more year. Fun fact, out of all the competitors in CrossFit, only one has called me to get help or advice on their training since I retired, and that was Justin. And I talk to him every couple of weeks for a couple hours, and he just picks my brain on training. So it was kind of funny. I thought more of them would be hitting me up, but Justin is the only one that's called for help.
I'm glad you answered that. That is something that people wanted to know. It reminds me of another guy that I know pretty well. You.
Yeah, hopefully I can treat him a little better.
Yeah, I think. Here's a fun one for you. We'll get back to some fitness questions after. But what's your favorite gun to shoot? And the follow up to that is they would like you to be honest. This is Jamie Lynn asking this question. What were your thoughts when Castro told you to go back on the ranch loop?
Okay, so
gun first. What's your favorite gun?
I mean, picking your favorite gun is like picking your favorite kid, and I've been told, I don't believe it, but I've been told you can't pick your favorite. But right now, I finally splurged, and I bought a transferable M16. So that was a long time in the making, and I finally had a case of the fuckets and bought my first full auto. But I have a Barrett MRAD that, I mean, it can stretch out like a mile and a half. So that thing's fun to shoot. The one gun that I shoot on a regular basis, Daniel Defense MK18. That thing is awesome. I have a couple, like Glock 34, 17, 19 that are all decked out. So those are fun. But then, I mean, pistol wise, the best gun I have, I think they changed the name to Staccato, but when I bought it, it was an STI. I have a DVC and an Omni. Those things are like the best gun out of the factory that I've ever shot. So those are fun. But yeah, right now the M16. I mean, who doesn't love a good full auto, you know? And then Castro telling me to turn around on the ranch loop. So initially, like everyone, I caught some flack. I mean, from no one that matters, but of me flipping Dave off. And that was, I thought he was joking, and so I was kind of joking back. But like, I'm sure every person in here that does CrossFit at an affiliate, you'll do a 3-round workout, and you come in after the 3rd round, and your coach is just being a smartass, like, all right, keep going, one more round. And you're like, aha, very funny. You know, I heard that joke before. And so when he did that at the games, I thought it was like a bad dad joke. So I was like, haha, very funny. I flipped him off. And then, he's like, no, seriously, you gotta go. And for me, it just ruined all credibility. Because you pace a workout based on the time domain. You know, like there's no guessing on it. If they sit us on a rower and just say, start rowing, we'll tell you when you're done. Well, you're going to row differently if you're doing a 100-meter sprint versus a marathon. And so it almost leaves the win up to almost who guessed correctly. And then what's stopping it in the future of, all right, if you do Fran and you hit the finish line and they say, all right, go back and reverse. Well, the guy that sandbagged and did a 3-minute Fran time is going to do better on the second part than the guy who gave full effort. So for me, it ruined credibility. You know, it's something that it was very gimmicky, very silly. I don't think it was well thought through either. We did the loop in the opposite direction. So the only person that was surprised by doing a second loop were Justin and I, because we crossed the finish line together. Every other person, before they came down that last big hill, and that last big hill is where you destroyed your quads because you're just sprinting. Every other person throttled back when they saw Justin and I coming. So I don't know why we didn't do the loop in the same direction so that everyone had the same surprise. But, yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic mental test. I think they just missed a couple things. And then for me, it just ruined the credibility of any workout moving forward. How do we know the finish line or the end is where we were told we were going to be scored off of? So, not my problem anymore. That's their problem.
Well, and here, you always love questions like this, for people that maybe new to fitness or aspire to get fit. And there's also, there's a lot of kids on here, so, I think it'd be great to hear from you. This is from Jordan Powell in Fort Stewart, Georgia, asking, so where do you believe a newbie should start when it comes to CrossFit specifically? Is your program, HWPO program, good for starters?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I think one thing that a lot of people I'm trying to think how to phrase this correctly. Like they'll watch games athletes training and see, the big numbers